And
so we're live, we're recording. We have the board on as the panel and some of the staff of IDA. I think Harry Coughlin will host the meeting for us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is now 6:17, and I welcome you to the audit committee meetings of both the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, as well as the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. Please note that both organizations have the same board of directors and audit committees, and because these organizations have the same auditor and the same agenda for this meeting, we will be running the committee meetings for each in parallel. To the panelists and attendees, please note that this meeting is being both live streamed and recorded. So if you are having any difficulty with the Zoom webinar, there are other options. You can also go to our website, nassauida.org, go to the top, select watch meetings, and you can watch the live stream. Please also note that we do have a stenographer attending this meeting. And in addition to being recorded, they will be transcribing the meeting in total. So we can add all public records to the files. And also know that at this time we are unable to accept public participation or comment. However, if any attendee wishes to make a comment or pose a question to the IDA or the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, please send an email to info@nassauida.org. Again, info@nassauida.org, and that address will be present throughout the evening from time to time. And once you submit comments or questions to the Economic Assistance Corporation or the IDA, those comments will also be entered into the public record along with the transcription of tonight's meeting. At this point in time, we'll conduct a roll call of the committee. We have one member absent from the committee. Mr. Timothy Williams will be absent today. However, we still do have a quorum. Mr. John Kumatis, are you present?
Present.
Mr. Anthony Simon?
Present.
Mr. Christopher Fusco?
Present.
Thank you. At this point in time, when we make motions, when we make a vote, please use your name for the purpose of the stenographer so they can record it for the purpose of the transcription. At this point, we have a quorum of the meeting. So I will ask now for a motion to open both the audit committee meetings of both the Nassau County IDA as well as Nassau County NCLEAC.
I'll make the motion to open both meetings. Chris
That is-
Fusco.
Thank you.
John
I'll second.
Kamatis, second.
And do we have a, okay, and do we have a third vote to move forward? And open
Anthony
the meeting?
Simon,
That's a confirm.
yes.
Thank you. I also want to point out we have other board meetings present, although not part of the committee. We have our chairman, Richard Kessel. Sir?
Hello, I'm here. I'm not on the committee, not participating, but observing and listening. Thank you, Harry.
We also have member Amy Flores
Present, also
And-
observing.
and member Lewis Warren.
Yes, Harry. Lewis Warren present and observing as well. Thank you.
And have I missed any board members who are also present? At this point in time, the purpose of today's meeting, the main purpose of today's audit committee meetings is to review and approve the year-end financial statements for both organizations. At this point, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our independent auditor, AVZ, led by Mr. Brian Peterson, partner at the firm, who will present to the committee the year-end 2019 financial statements for both organizations. Mr. Peterson?
Good evening, audit committee and board members. Thank you for meeting with me today. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we have audited the financial statements of the Nassau County IDA and the Local Economic Assistance Corporation for the year ended December 31st, 2019. Both the agency and the corporation are component units of Nassau County, New York. Professional standards require that we communicate to you the following related information for our audit. Management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. The significant accounting policies used by the agency and the corporation are described in Note 1 to the financial statements. We noted no transactions entered into by the agency during the year or the corporation for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. All significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Accounting estimates are an integral part of the financial statements prepared by management and are based on management's knowledge and experience about past and current events and assumptions about future events. Certain accounting estimates are particularly sensitive because of their significance to the financial statements and because of the possibility that future events affecting them may differ significantly from those expected. The most sensitive estimates affecting the agency's financial statements were as follows. Management's estimates of other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB, management's estimates for depreciation, management's estimates for liability for compensated absences, the estimate of the agency's proportionate share of the net pension liability. We evaluated the key factors and assumptions used to develop these estimates in determining that they are reasonable in relation to the financial statements as whole. Certain financial statement disclosures are particularly sensitive because of their significance to the financial statement users. The most sensitive disclosures affecting the financial statements was the subsequent events, which discusses the economic uncertainties that potentially could negatively impact operation results due to the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus. As far as difficulties encountered during our audit, we are pleased to say that we did not encounter any difficulties with management. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. So professional standards require us to accumulate all known and likely misstatements identified during the audit, other than those that are trivial, and communicate them to the appropriate level of management. Management has corrected all such misstatements. Per review of a sample of economic impact report invoices, we discovered that $32,500 worth of services paid by the agency on behalf of 3 open projects were erroneously recorded to operating expenses. Per our inquiry of agency management, these reimbursable expenses were not recorded as accounts receivable as of December 31st, 19 due to management oversight. After management reviewed each individual charge, it was determined that the agency would seek reimbursement for those project costs. The amounts were properly reclassified to accounts receivable, and the amounts were deemed 100% collectible by management as of December 31st, 2019. This item has also been noted in the agency's financial statements as a significant deficiency in internal control. Disagreements with management, I'm pleased to say that report that we had no disagreements. As far as we have also requested certain representations from management that are included in what's called a management representation letter dated April 7th, 2020. Management's consultation with other independent accountants. To our knowledge, there was no such consultations with other accountants. As far as the Industrial Development Agency, just a couple of highlights. Just want to go over real quick. The assets and deferred outflows of resources of the agency exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources at the close of 2019 by $1.8 million. The agency's total net position decreased by $387,000 in 2019. As of December 31st, 2019, the unrestricted portion of the net position of the agency totaled $1.828 million. This is still a very strong net position. As far as the Local Economic Assistance Corporation, the assets of the corporation exceeded its liabilities at the close of 2019 by $571,000. The corporation's total net position decreased by $14,000 during 2019. At December 31st, 2019, the unrestricted net position for the corporation totaled $571,000, still a very strong net position. As far as our opinions on both financial statements, we did issue a clean opinion, also known as an unmodified opinion on both the IDA and the Economic Assistance Corporation. I'd like to ask at this time if the audit committee has any questions that I could address.
Brian, it's Richie. I'm not on the audit committee, but I do have a question for your expertise. Is there anything that we should be doing for this year regarding, the COVID-19 virus and our activities?
That is hard to say. I mean, we know obviously with the stimulus package that's come out and with the SBA loans, obviously promoting those as much as possible. And I think a lot's going to come out in the next couple of weeks for potential holes that might need to be filled, that those economic stimulus packages are not covering. I think at that point, we might want to take a look at some of the assets that you have and potentially earmark some of those. Especially with the Local Economic Assistance Corporation. I know that there's been talk about offering some small loans and grants through other EDCs as well throughout the state that they had set up to offer small assistance for those types of holes that the economic stimulus packages has not filled. As far as that, it's just a matter of potentially, closing the deals that you have currently open. You have a really nice pipeline in place of jobs that just need to get closed up to get those closed up so you can get that revenue in to give you a little bit more financial stability.
Thanks. I think that's a good point. We have discussed with Andrew and staff some of the projects that we have finalized but haven't closed. So after we get through this meeting and we should start really, again, focusing on getting those projects closed. I gather most of the reason why they haven't closed is because they're still awaiting local permits or other things. But we do have a number of big projects that are in the pipeline that we need to get closed. So I think we need to figure out a way to work with the local municipalities. Harry came up with mentioned to me the idea that maybe we reach out to some of the municipalities where they're slowing these projects down and try to get them to move quickly so we can get them closed.
Very nice. Any other questions?
I'd like to also point out to the audit committee members and the board members, they should have received the financial statements and the draft reports previously. However, if you wish to access them today or at this moment, they are in your Dropbox folders under the other business section.
And if I can just add that any board member or audit committee member can contact me directly at any time.
Thank you.
Brian, it's Lewis Warren. I'm not on the audit committee, but a board member. If you or AVZ hear of any steps, strategies, or tactics that our IDA or LEAC should be employing, because I know you do business throughout the state and throughout the region with other industrial development agencies.
Yes.
I would just ask that you and AVZ share that with management, with Harry and management, right? Because this is an extraordinary time, and I know we're still in the early stages of the economic impacts, but you're in a pretty interesting position to advise our board and management should you see some other strategies we should be taking from a financial responsibility or planning perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely will, would relay any information that I can get to help. Absolutely.
Are there any further questions or comments for Brian? At this point in time, we'll call for a motion for the resolution to recommend the audited financial statements for approval and adoption by the committee.
Anthony Simon, make a motion.
Chris Fusco on the second.
I agree.
And that is John Kumatis.
Yep.
Therefore, the resolution is accepted and the financial statements are accepted by the committee. At this point in time, there is no other business for the audit committee. We will need a motion to adjourn the committee meeting.
I make the motion to adjourn. John Kamatis.
Harry, there were also minutes that were circulated from the meeting in February, that if they could be approved would be helpful as well.
Okay.
Certainly. Minutes from the February 27th meeting, a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Make a
John
motion.
Kamadas accepts.
Fred.
Chris Fusco,
Yes.
Anthony Simon,
Yes.
the motion passes. Tom, good?
Very good. Thank you.
Can we move to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
So I'll need another motion to adjourn the committee meetings of both the Nassau County IDA and Nassau County League.
Anthony Simon makes the motion.
Louis,
Chris Fusco, second.
if I can second.
No, I need a committee member, sir.
Chris Fusco, Harry. I second it.
Thank you,
John
sir.
Kamadas agrees.
Thank you, gentlemen. This closes the audit committee meetings of both organizations. We are now at 6:32, 2 minutes behind schedule on the opening of the Local Economic Assistance Corporation full board meeting. At this point, I'm just going to read the same opening statement because we may have some attendees who joined after the fact. The time is now 6:32. I'm Harry Coughlin, CEO and Executive Director of the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, and we welcome you to this board meeting of the organization. Please note that this meeting is being both live streamed and recorded, and we do have a stenographer who is also transcribing the meeting in full, and we'll enter that into the public record. At this point in time, for the duration of this meeting, we are not accepting public comment or questions. However, if you do wish to have something addressed by the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, please send your comments or questions to info@nassauida.org, and your comments will only be entered into the public record as well. At this time, if you are, for some reason, having trouble viewing this webinar, there are other options to view. You can go to our website at nassauida.org, click watch meetings, and you can watch the stream on our YouTube channel. There's also a dial-in option at 646-558-8656. Again, 646-558-8656, and the webinar ID is 108-849-199. Again, 108-849-199. Kevin, if you could please advance the slide. One more time. One more time back, please. To the agenda. To the agenda, please. Thank you. One more back, please, to the agenda. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I will pass the microphone over to you for the roll call and working through the agenda.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you for Harry, Tom, our attorneys, and staff for the great work that you guys have done putting this together. I'll have more to say about that when I give my report in the IDA meeting. Let's take a roll call first. I'll start. Richard Kessel.
Amy Flores.
Christopher Fusco.
Anthony Simon. John Kamadas.
Louis Warren.
Thank you. So we have a quorum of the board. Before I go into preliminary resolutions, I do want to point out to the public that's watching, we thank you for watching us. Just to explain, and I do this at every LEAC meeting, the LEAC board, Local Assistance Corporation, has the same board as the IDA. And so we will do a meeting. We have two major items on the agenda tonight, Kellenberg High School and Hagedorn Little Village School. Following that, we will go adjourn and go into the formal IDA board meeting. So this is not yet the IDA board meeting. And when we initiate the IDA board meeting, we will, I will give a chairman's report. Harry, our great CEO, Harry Coughlin, will give his report. and then we will go into the items on that particular agenda. So again, as Harry mentioned, because of the technology and the circumstances, we can't take public input at this point. There will be an opportunity for people to have input in writing, as Harry has outlined, and we will certainly take that into consideration. Just to point out again that the two projects that we are talking about tonight, we are only going to vote to move them forward preliminarily. These are not final votes. There is a whole process that follows this, including a likely public hearing on both of them at the appropriate time. And so I want to assure the public that they will be able to comment further, and that the board tonight will only vote to preliminarily approve or not approve these two projects for further review by the staff, and ultimately leading into a public hearing, and then ultimately another board meeting at some point in the future for final approval. With that, I want to introduce first the Kellenberg High School, formerly Province of Maribah Society of Mary Incorporated, Kellenberg High School. They are going to make a presentation in terms of what they're proposing. I want to thank them for their hard work. I am a big fan of Kellenberg High School. Even though I never went there, I had a television show at Telecare. I'm very familiar with the facility. It's a great facility. And with that, I'll hand it over to the Kellenberg people. If you'd please identify yourselves and make your presentation. Thank you.
For the presenters from Kellenberg, do we have Greg Lucalzi? David Barr? Marietta Tartamella?
I'm here, Marita Tartamella.
Brother Kenneth Hoagland?
Yes, I am here, Brother Kenneth Hoagland.
Let me go back. Do we have Greg Lucalzi? David Barr?
David Barr's here.
Thank you, sir. We're just waiting on Mr. Greg Lucalzi.
Okay.
Harry, maybe what we'll do is move on to Hagedorn and come back to Kellenberg.
Well, I would just.
I'm here now. Do you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we do. That's okay. Kellenberg team, the floor is yours.
So what I'll ask is, if you go to the overview of this school, or am I doing that? Yeah, right here. And then I'll ask Marita and Brother Kenneth maybe just to give an overview of the school before we start into the bond issue. Can you go back one slide? There we go. Yep. So, Brother Kenneth or Marita, did you want to just give a quick overview of the school and the role you provide in Nassau County?
Yes, this is Brother Kenneth. Kellenberg Memorial is a middle school, high school of 2,600 students, serving the families in mostly predominantly Nassau County. We have a employment of about 200 employees that work at the school, from mostly living in Nassau County. And the school has grown in number from in the course of its history in 30 years, from 1,400 in 1987 to 2,600. We are at a point now where we need to expand our facilities in order to accommodate all the needs of the students. We are going to upgrade our science labs. We have 4 science labs that we are totally renovating to create a better STEM center for our students. We also need to expand our athletic facilities, given the number of students involved in athletics from grades 6 through 12. So we want to put in a athletic activity center, which would also house the band and orchestra, which has grown to a larger size than the space that we have at the moment. So with the activity athletic center and the science labs, and then the fields that we are renovating on Hempstead Turnpike and Glen Curtis Boulevard, that athletic center, we're asking for this loan for the completion of that project that will be done within the next 3 years.
Thank you, Brother Kenneth. If you could go to the next slide, and I'll give an overview of the financing and the request of Kellenberg and the province from Nassau County Leak. As Brother Kenneth stated, the proceeds of the bonds will be, used for the construction of a activity and athletic center, redevelopment of and renovation of Science Hall and hallway restoration, as well as about $500,000 for modernization of the school's elevators. Just to point out that the actual project is larger in number, but the only amount that are being requested for bonds is this amount of money. We do have a bank willing to purchase the debt already. We have a term sheet. This is the same bank who actually purchased the tax-exempt Nassau County paper from 2015. So Kellenberg and the province has been through this process before. They understand what they need to do with you to get this accomplished. It is nice and efficient that the same bank is purchasing this debt, as they are also aware of the process. In terms of the request to Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, the school is requesting the issuance of tax-exempt and taxable bonds through the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, as well as potentially a mortgage recording tax exemption. In the 2015 issue, there was no mortgage taken on the bonds. We are assuming that will continue on this deal, and we'll follow up if we need the exemption, but I just put that in just for the information. The next slide shows a picture of, just some graphic details of of Kellenberg and what it may look like once construction is done. And that is it for the Kellenberg transaction. I ask the board to ask any questions. You have Brother Kenneth on the line, as well as Marita Tartamella from the school. And they can answer really any questions you have on the school, and I'm here to assist, or my colleague Dave Barr can assist with any questions on the financing and moving forward logistically.
Thank you for that presentation. We appreciate it. Let me just say two things and then ask the board if they have any questions. Number one, as I indicated earlier, I'm very familiar with Kellenberg High School. I think it's a fine institution, and I've toured the facility many times. I've seen some of the facilities that you're looking to improve on. I fully support it. This is a major learning institution in the county with several thousand students, and I commend you for the work that you do. And I think that this is an important project that will benefit the county as well. So I'm very supportive of that. The only question I had is, you did bring up the possibility of a mortgage recording tax. And I don't remember, do you have an approximate number for that, the amount that might be at this point?
Yeah, well, the transaction is going to be about $10 million. So the mortgage recording tax exemption would be 1% of that. So in this case, I'm fairly certain that the bank, who's TD Bank, is purchasing without taking a mortgage, so we will avoid that cost. I just wanted to, on a preliminary basis, I wanted to include it, and I would work with you and Andrew as bond counsel if anything changes. But at this point, there will be no mortgage taken, so there will be no mortgage recording tax. So I assume it will just be for the tax exempt bonds.
Got it. Thank you very much. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Okay, Harry, you or Andrew, our attorney, want to say anything or have any questions or comments about this?
I don't have any additional questions, no.
Richard, this is Andrew. No questions on my end either. I think the presentation described the assistance being requested, and in front of the board is, as you explained, is a preliminary resolution.
Okay, so if no other board members have any questions or comments, I'd like a recommendation. I'd like for someone to move the resolution that we give a preliminary approval inducement to this Kellenberg project. As I indicated, and as you indicated, Andrew, this is a preliminary approval only, and there will be a public hearing when we can have public hearings in the future prior to us finally approving this project at a later board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion, Rich.
Okay, that's Anthony Simon. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second it,
second it.
Rich. Chris Fusco.
Chris Fusco seconded. All those in favor, just say your name. Richard Kessel, yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
Chris Fusco, yes.
Lewis Warren, yes.
Thank you. That is approved. Thank you, Kellenberg. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. And our staff will be in touch with you in terms of working on the specifics of the leak package. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Chairman, just give us one moment. We'll close out the channels for Kellenberg and we will open up the channels for Hagedorn Little Village School.
Absolutely.
Greg Lucalzi, are you still with us?
Yes.
Very good. David Barr still with us?
We
Bear
should
with us
still
and
have
just-
David Barr. He's unmuted.
He's muted.
I'm here.
And do we also have Jonathan Feingold?
You do not.
Just to the public, we're just, because of obviously using this technology, we have to pause in between each presentation so that we can get set for the next one. Thanks.
I now see Mr. John Feingold, who's currently muted. Can you hear us, Mr. Feingold?
Mute. Mute.
Hello?
Try now.
Yes, we hear you.
This is John Final. Can you
You
hear
want to be
me?
on video?
We can now, yes, thank you. Is Mr. Mazur with you or is he separate?
Tony Mazer is separate.
Okay.
But I believe he should be on.
Just give us one moment, I don't see him yet.
I apologize. I don't see any Anthony Mazur listed on the attendees. There are 3 phone numbers.
Tony Mazer is our Director of Finance.
What would be the last 4 digits of his phone number?
Give me one moment and I'll get it for you.
I did talk to Tony today and he said he was going to call in potentially.
The last 4 digits of his phone number are 0831.
I did not see that.
John, for the benefit of moving this along, maybe we just start. If he can jump in, he jumps in. If not, we can update him after the fact.
Sure.
Okay, so Harry, can I start?
You may.
Thank you. All right, so we're now on to our second preliminary resolution, and that is to review the possible approval of a preliminary resolution for the Hagedorn Little Village School in Seaford. Again, I'm somewhat familiar with it, but I turn it over to the presenters from Hagedorn to make their presentation about their school, what they do, and what they're proposing. It's up to you guys. Go ahead.
Thanks. This is Greg LaCalzi again from Roosevelt and Cross. We're also working with Hagedorn Little Village School on this financing. On the first slide, you'll see an overview of the borrower, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to John Feingold, who is head of school and can give you an overview of the school and the services they provide.
Hi. So the Hagedorn Little Village School, we're celebrating our 50th year here. We've always been based at different locations in Nassau County, and we're currently in Seaford at the old Massapequa General Hospital location. We are a not-for-profit program. We provide special education and therapeutic services to children and families with developmental disabilities in the birth to age 12 space. We are chartered as an elementary school as well as a special needs preschool. We serve roughly 400 students at the school each year. The students pay no tuition. We're funded through a combination of State Ed Department, Department of Health, and some fundraising. We also have a robust program in the communities where we provide services to children who perhaps don't need the intensity of a school, but still require a special education or a therapeutic service such as speech therapy, physical occupational therapy, or counseling. And we provide all of that again at no cost to families. All in told, we'll service over 1,200 families in a year. We also provide evaluations, nearly 600 a year, to families who have a concern about their child's development. We also provide clinical support groups to parents and to the siblings of our students after school and in the evenings. At this point, our school services, as I mentioned, nearly 1,200 families in any given year through all of our programs. And we employ, including our full-time, part-time, W-2 and 1099s, approximately 600 individuals. The majority of our staff do live in Nassau County, and about 80 to 85% of our students and families are also in Nassau County. Are there any questions I can answer as far as the overview of our school?
You know what, thank you, John. What I'll do before we maybe take questions is give an overview of the financing. This financing is fairly straightforward. It's solely a refinancing of outstanding debt of the school. Of that refinancing, there's 2 components. One, about $3.8 million is to refinance in full the school's outstanding Nassau County NCLEAC 2013 taxes and bonds. Those monies were used for capital improvements at the Seaford facility, as well as $2 million to term out a line of credit. This will be done on a taxable basis. Again, no new construction or capital projects on this project. Solely the refinancing of outstanding debt. We had a competitive process to find a lender on this, receiving multiple term sheets, and we chose a bank to buy the debt in full. We've already had communication with them, and they're ready to move forward as quickly as the project can move. in terms of a request, the two requests from Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation is the issuance of tax-exempt bonds and taxable bonds for the project, and a mortgage recording tax exemption on the bonds as well. The next page will show, again, pictures of the school and some from the facility. This is on their website, publicly available information, but gives you a sense of what the school looks like, as well as some of the services they provide. With that, I do ask if there's any questions on this project. You have John on the phone who can answer every question on terms of the school and the financing, and I can help if there's any further financing questions.
Thank you for your presentation and again for your efforts under these circumstances. I would just say that I am somewhat familiar with the school and what you have done over the years, and I commend you for the work that you do to help people through a lot of different situations, and it's a fine place, and I commend you for it. I ask the board if there are anyone that has any questions or comments about this proposed financing. Okay, Harry, Andrew, do you have any comments that you want to make?
Harry Coghlan, I will only say that I have no questions, but I am supportive of the project.
And Richard, this is Andrew, no particular comments.
And just for the Little Village team, I'd just like to make them aware that Mr. Anthony Mazur is now on the line and unmuted.
Okay, so without any further comments, do I hear a motion to preliminarily approve the Hagedorn Little Village School for a preliminary approval?
Anthony Simon will make that motion.
Chairman Kessel, Lewis Warren will second the motion.
Thank you, Louis. Is there any further discussion on the part of the board? Hearing none, all those in favor, just state your name. Richard Kessel, yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
Christopher Fusco, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
Lewis Warren, yes.
Thank you. That's a 6-0 approval. As I indicated, our staff will now work with the Hagedorn staff and put together a package. There will be a public hearing in the future, and this will come back to the LEAC board for final approval sometime in the near future.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone from Hagedorn. We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. I assume we have two other items on the agenda, brief. One, we have a audit committee report. Is that correct, Tom Glasscock or Andrew?
That is correct, sir.
All right, Harry, thank you. So I'd ask for the chair or the acting chair of the audit committee, John Kamadas, to report.
Okay, we'll make a motion. Do we have to come out of where we are and leave, or do we stay where we are?
No, you can just report that the committee had a meeting and resolved a recommendation with regard to the audit.
Okay. So I guess we did have a meeting, agreed on all the projects, and like to bring it to the board for their vote. Mr. Williams is missing, but we do have Chris Fusco, and we do have Anthony Simons and myself, John Kamadas, here to vote, so.
And
Make a motion?
John, I assume that you're reporting it out favorably for a vote by the LEAC board now.
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right, and
I'd
you,
like to make that motion.
John Kamadas, is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Anthony Simon seconds it. Is there any discussion further? Then obviously this was reviewed and discussed at the audit committee meeting at 6:15. People were on the call and again, were able to view it. Any further comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Oh,
Aye.
I need to do it by name, sorry. Richard Kessel, yes.
Chris Fusco, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
Louis Warren, yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
Okay, thank you. We have adopted that. Tom Glasscock just asked, I see also on the agenda another resolution to recommend the audited financial statements. That was what we just did, is that
That
correct?
is what was just approved, yes.
Good, thank you. So we have one other item on the agenda, and that's the approval of our minutes from February 27th, 2020, which was our last meeting of the LEAC board. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adopt the February 27th, 2020 minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. That's Chris
Chris
Fusco.
Fusco.
Second.
I'll make it second, Chairman Kessel, Louis Warren.
Thank you, Louis. All those in favor, just say your name one at a time. Richard Kessel, yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Louis Warren, yes.
Chris Fusco, yes.
Okay, the minutes are accepted and adopted. Is there any further business that anyone wishes to bring up before we adjourn the LEAC board and start our IDA board meeting?
Mr. Chairman, there is a treasurer's report this evening.
All right, Harry, would you give that report? Thank you.
Certainly. The members can find the report in their Dropbox under LEAC, under folder number 5, other business. Last file under L, you will see the LEAC treasurer's report. It is uneventful. As you will note, there was no closing fee income as no projects closed. However, versus budget, as you now know, we have 2 projects approved for preliminary. Should they move to final, we should make up budget on that closing fee income. The thing I will point out is we are on budget. Beyond that, however, if you look at our closing cash and cash equivalents balance at the end, it has stayed fairly static with no major changes. And as you heard from Mr. Brian Peterson, the organization is in a good position at this point in time. So as I say, it's mostly uneventful at this point.
Thank you, Harry. And I assume that these 2 projects, if ultimately we approve them, will add to the cash position favorably going forward.
That's correct.
Thank you, Harry. Is there any other business? All right, Richard Kessel moves to adjourn the LEAC meeting.
John Kamadas, seconds.
Okay, Richard Kessel, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
Chris Fusco, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
Louis Warren, yes.
Okay, that meeting is adjourned. I'm just wondering what would happen if we voted down the adjournment. We'd have to be on this all night. Anyway, so Harry, should I give it a couple of minutes? Or can we start the IDA meeting right away? How do we want to handle that?
I can start it right away if you like.
Okay. Is everyone okay with starting the IDA meeting? Or do you need-
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we will
Okay.
start the IDA board meeting now.
So ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 7:05 p.m. Apologies for the delay. The IDA board meeting was to start at 6:45. Appreciate your patience in waiting it out. Welcome to the board meeting of the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. As a note of record, please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on our YouTube channel, as well as being recorded for future storage and later viewing. Also, please note that we have hired the services of a stenographer who is transcribing the meeting in detail. That transcription will also be put into the public record. And I can tell you that at this point in time, we are not receiving public comment during the meeting. However, if you do wish to send questions or pose comments to the agency, please submit those to info@nassauida.org. Again, info@nassauida.org, and you will see that address throughout the presentation. If you are having trouble, next slide, please, Kevin. If you are having trouble viewing this broadcast, please note that there are other options to view. You can go to the link on our main webpage, nassauida.org, and click the top button at the top for watch meetings. We are streaming it live at nassauidalive.org. All the meetings that we're seeing today will be preliminary actions. There will be future opportunity to comment or attend at the public hearings and or the final approval meetings. Mr. Chairman, I turn the meeting back to you. Kevin, if you could advance to the next slide, please.
Thank you, Harry. Before anything, I want to take a board roll call. Richard Kessel.
Anthony
Amy
Simon.
Flores.
Sorry, Amy.
Sorry.
All right, keep going.
Chris Fusco.
John Kamadas.
Louis Warren.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. We have 6 members. Now, I know this is a little unusual, but on our screen, we do have an American flag. We always do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd ask everyone to stand where they are. And I'd ask Harry Coughlin, our Executive Director, CEO, who's done a fabulous job in putting this together, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you for the privilege, Mr. Chairman. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America
and to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for
for which it
stands
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you to the board. I'd like to ask the board and people watching for a moment of silence for people who have passed away due to the COVID-19 coronavirus. This has been a very difficult time. It's very tough. And just ask everyone for a moment of silence. Thank you. I want to say at the outset that these are very difficult times, very challenging, certainly the most challenging most of us have ever experienced in our lifetimes. And I want to just say on behalf of myself, and I know the board, that we pray that for those people that have the virus, we pray that no more people are impacted, and we pray that we can meet the challenge and that we can go forward and get back to some form of normalcy soon. I know we all have been impacted by this. This is an extraordinary time, and I ask everyone just for, again, a few seconds, just to pray that people get better, recover, and that everyone is safe. Thank you all very much. And I appreciate everyone participating in this meeting. I have to first thank our board for their extraordinary dedication to the IDA and for also those people watching this. There are a lot of other things that many of us need to do. Our family, our thoughts, and the fact that this board has agreed to do this meeting is just extraordinary. I can't thank you all enough. You're engaged, and we really appreciate it. I thank you so much. I have to also thank our staff, Harry, Danielle, Catherine, our counsel, Tom Glasscock, our counsels from Harris Beach, Andrew and Tom Gary, and everyone else that's worked here. This is an extraordinary time, and this meeting is extraordinary. And in talking to the County Executive Laura Curran today, and she has just done an extraordinary job and shown great leadership here in Nassau County. And I want to commend Laura Curran for the incredible job that she has done under very difficult circumstances. I want to just read into the record a statement that our county executive has issued. And this is from our county executive, Laura Curran. I am pleased to see that the Board of Directors of the Nassau County IDA will be holding its monthly meeting this evening via virtual conference. It is extremely important that we do what we can by keeping our governmental processes moving to support businesses and position future job creation and retention during these challenging times. Several important economic development projects will be on the agenda for preliminary inducements, kicking off the IDA's consideration on these items. They include a retention initiative for longtime Nassau-based company 1-800-Flowers.com, the Long Beach Superblock development proposal by Engel Berman, and a hotel project in Jericho. All projects will still be subject to public hearings at a later date. Information concerning this evening's meeting is available at the IDA website, nassauida.org. And that is from our county executive, Laura Curran. I want to keep this as short as possible. Most people who know me know that sometimes I'm a little extensive in my comments, but recognizing the need to move this forward, I want to just say a few things here. First of all, to the public who is watching, thank you for participating and watching, and please be safe and take care of yourself. We're thinking of all of you at this time. We had to make some decisions about whether or not to hold a board meeting under these circumstances. And it's not an easy decision to make because while on the one hand, as Laura Curran said, we want to continue the business of the county. On the other hand, these are very difficult times. People are diverted, their thoughts may be elsewhere. And it was a difficult decision to make to hold this board. But I think it was the right decision because in the end, we need to keep the business flowing. We need to keep moving. Hopefully the world will come back at some point in the near term. And we want to be able to move things forward so that when we do start getting back to normal, some of these projects can be initiated and started, providing hundreds of construction jobs to our friends, the building trades and other union members. And that is important to do that. And, if we can get some of these projects finally approved in the next few months, it's possible that some of them may start physical construction in the summer or early fall when people will need work. So I think that the decision to go forward with this meeting was the right one. And I stand by it. And I know the other board members do as well. I have been in regular touch with all of the board members at various times. Obviously, we'll continue that as we go forward. But I did want everyone to know that, this is an important meeting for us. I also want to indicate that since I came onto the IDA board, and that, was confirmed by the legislature, appointed by Laura Curran and the other board members, when you look at this agenda, this is probably the most significant agenda we've ever dealt with. We have three very important projects. And as I indicated, and as the county executive indicated, we've got 1-800-Flowers, one of the most important and iconic companies in Nassau County. Every time I pass, going on my way to Mineola, and I pass their sign on their current location, I think of them, and I'll have more to say about them specifically later. But having them agree to stay and grow in Nassau County is so important. And this is a major save for the county. 1-800-Flowers, and they will certainly say this themselves, was thinking of leaving the county for a number of reasons. And through our work, our staff's work, we have convinced them to stay in Nassau and to grow in Nassau County. That is a huge accomplishment if ultimately we decide to go forward with an incentive package. I don't know what else to say about the Long Beach Superblock other than it's one of the biggest projects that's ever come before this board. As you know, it did come before the board under a prior administration, and there was a great deal of controversy about it, and it never advanced. I'm very familiar with the Superblock. As a kid, I used to walk that boardwalk, play skee ball, and get kasha knishes on that strip. It's been vacant for over 40 years. And the chance and opportunity to create movement there and create tremendous benefits for the city of Long Beach is extraordinary. And this is probably the biggest project, single project that we have undertaken since we've been at the board. There have been a lot of changes made in the original project that was brought before the board a number of years ago before we came. And so this is an exciting opportunity. And finally, the Milleridge property next to the Milleridge Inn, a very famous place, building a hotel there. Again, has received a lot of attention. It's an important project, a good gain for Nassau County. So these three projects, when you look at them from any perspective, probably represent the biggest and most comprehensive and advancing agenda that our board, our new board, has taken up. And I have to say, just that, the staff has done a great job. The staff and myself have met with personally, in person, with two of the applicants. In fact, with Engel Berman and my friend Steve Krieger and Jan Berman, we have had a number of meetings discussing this project. We have worked well and cooperatively with them. We also have met several times on the Jericho Hotel project. The board may remember that a year ago, a little over a year ago, we actually did a preliminary approval of the project, but because of some changes, the length of time that's gone forward and some of the issues that have been raised in the community, we decided to consider this again as part of an amendment to the preliminary approval that we originally gave to them. And we've had extensive calls with 1-800-Flowers and their representatives. And so we've done a lot of our homework in bringing these three projects to the floor today. Just to remind the public that these are preliminary approvals as well. I am hopeful that if the board approves these preliminarily, that there will be an opportunity for public hearings on all three of them. And I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. There will be staff work that'll be done, And the IDA will then consider the projects and the packages that ultimately are agreed to between our staff and the applicants at a future board meeting. So there will be, and I want to assure the public that there will be plenty of opportunity for everyone to have input, not just in writing, which they're certainly welcome to do now, but hopefully at a public hearing in the area where these projects are being built. And we will make every attempt to do that. I'm relatively confident. I don't want to guarantee anything because we are living in uncertain times, but I want to make every promise that we will try our best to do these hearings in the next couple of months so that anyone in the public that wants to speak for or against the project will have an opportunity to do that prior to us formally approving that. I also want to make it clear to the public that these proposals are just proposals. The terms of the applications have been proposed by the applicants. They are not final in any way. We will review them. We will discuss them, staff internally. We will have public hearings, and what ultimately maybe come before the board in the future may be different than what is currently being proposed. And I think that's an important point to make to the entire board and to the public out there. I am particularly sensitive about the Superbach project in Long Beach. I think that the developers have done a great job of outreach. I myself have reached out to almost every elected official from that area. Some of them may be watching this tonight, and we'll continue to do that as well for all of these projects. So I want to thank everyone for that as well. I also, and before we have Harry give his president's report, CEO's report, I do also want to indicate that the county executive has appointed an economic advisory council, and the advisory council is led by Stu Rabinowitz, the president of Hofstra, and myself. We have a number of people on that advisory council. We have been meeting virtually with the county executive and Evelyn Simis, who has done an extraordinary job as a deputy county executive for economic development. And I want to thank Evelyn for all of her input, not only into the advisory council, but into this meeting. And she's been extremely helpful, as has been the county executive. The Economic Advisory Council has been meeting, and we will have a meeting tomorrow, in fact, at 1 o'clock. And one of the things that you will see on the agenda is a proposal to hire HR&A to help advise the council and prepare economic data that we can use as a county to seek assistance from the state and federal governments as we go forward. This is critical that we do that. We are reaching out to Suffolk. We are trying to work with Suffolk. Suffolk is doing a good job. I want to thank Steve Ballone and his economic development team for that. We appreciate it. And the Economic Advisory Council may come up with things that the county executive will propose that will come before the IDA at some point. So I wanted to let you know that. Finally, I want to indicate that the IDA and our staff and council are looking at programs that we may be able to present to the board at a future time to help businesses recover as we move into the next phase of where we are. You know, I don't have to tell anyone here that our businesses are suffering tremendously, especially our small businesses. but also some of our larger IDA clients. We've reached out to them and as well have told them and indicated to them that they can get advice and help from us in terms of their operations. But at some point, there may be some proposals that we can put forward to the board that can help some of these small businesses recover as we get later on into May and June and beyond that. So I will keep the board aware of all of that and keep everyone informed of that. Finally, I do want to say one other thing. There is an item on the agenda. We have working with the county executive and the Nassau Council of Chambers of Commerce, and they do a great job. I want to thank Frank and Dennis and their other members for helping us. We are going to launch a campaign this week, actually, I think starting Thursday, Boost Nassau. It's to help our local small businesses. Now, obviously, we want people to stay at home, please, but we understand that people do have to go out to do some essential shopping. Obviously, we want you to do it safely, but to the greatest extent possible to use our local businesses who are working hard out there. They have real challenges. You know, we've got to thank all the employees who are out there that are working in the supermarkets, in the different kinds of stores, in the restaurants, in the essential businesses out there, our transit workers. I know Anthony and I have spoken about the dedication of the people who work on the Long Island Railroad. These are heroes, and most importantly, our healthcare workers who are out there risking their lives every day. So the Boost Nassau campaign is a campaign that will appear in local weekly newspapers and several other major publications to encourage people, if they have to go out, to limit that and to shop safely and to use local businesses. I'm very proud of that project going forward, and it will start on Thursday. And I want to thank again our staff and some of the people that are working for us who have helped put that together. With that, I want to do something a little different before we get to Harry's report. Does anyone on the board have anything they may want to say before we get to our CEO's report?
Chairman Kessel, this is Anthony Simon.
Yes, Anthony.
First, I want to echo everything you said about the leadership from our county executive, which has been outstanding, as well as our police commissioner, Patrick Ryder, as well, keeping us safe in Nassau and being on top of everything. Also, you did mention the transit workers, Long Island Railroad, all of the MTA agency frontline employees. I have to commend them myself because it's an amazing job, and they're coming in and day out without any concerns for themselves to make sure that our most dedicated heroes, which are the nurses and the doctors and the firemen and the police officers, EMS, are coming into work and getting there safely. It is not an easy job at this point. It's pretty scary when you don't know what you're bringing home to your families, and they are dedicated and truly are heroes. As far as Harry and his staff, they have been amazing. I can't thank them enough for all the work just putting this together. So to all of them, thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony. Does anyone else wish to say anything?
I think Anthony summed it up. Chris Fusco here. I think Anthony summed it up very well. The staff did a great job. The county executive's doing a great job. Everybody's got their best foot forward, and hopefully soon we'll be through this.
Thank you, Chris.
I just also want to echo what Anthony and also Chris mentioned. And, you know, these are unprecedented times, but now more than ever, we have to just stay together, united as one to, you know, battle this pandemic. But, you know, this is all a matter of working together. And, Harry and his team have definitely stepped up to the plate to be able to give us the opportunity to still continue with these board meetings. So thank you for your leadership and for your dedication to be able to make this happen. And also, thank you to all of the first responders, of course, risking their lives every day. So this is definitely challenging times, but together we will get through this. And I know that the county executive and her leadership is definitely has been very supportive to so many people right now, and it's definitely very appreciative.
Thank you, Amy. Before we go on to Harry, I just do want to mention too, I'm very proud of the job that Governor Andrew Cuomo has done. And I have to say that as someone who worked for Andrew, the governor, and his father for many years, I think we all are proud and owe a great deal to his leadership. I think he's done an extraordinary job, very difficult and challenging job. He has shown great leadership. And, I have to say as an individual, I'm very proud he's our governor. I'm proud that I had the opportunity to work for him. I've known Andrew Cuomo for close to 40 years. We were young fellas then. I obviously worked for his dad for many years. And I just want to commend him for the extraordinary job that he has done. With that, I would ask our CEO, Harry Coughlin, for his report. Thank you, Harry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the board, thank you for your service this evening. Just want to first let everybody know, and I appreciate the comments for the staff, and I echo those. The staff has really stepped up and been fantastic during these unprecedented times. I want to assure you that to the best we can, business is moving forward as anticipated. I think the agenda for today's events and today's meetings indicates that the staff is focused. I can tell you that the staff is very engaged. We meet like this on a daily basis. We go over next steps on any projects. But more importantly, I'm very proud of the work that the staff is doing in response to the COVID-19 crisis. If I can direct you to our Dropbox, I'm going to dispense with the normal activity report because normal activity ceased right around the week of March 9th. However, I want to point you to a couple of things. First of all, the chairman mentioned the Economic Advisory Council. There was a survey that went out. The county executive released it last week. There were more than 1,400 responses in a 1-week period. A lot of that is due to the way the business community came together. Other organizations promoted the survey, Long Island Association, the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce, and many others. And if you look in your Dropbox, the first file under N, you'll see the Economic Impact Survey results. I will just tell you that the results were daunting. 90% of responses came from businesses with less than 25 employees. 56% of businesses already had to lay off employees, and almost 100% said they would be making layoffs by the end of the year. 81% of business owners say they will need a loan to fund the operations of their business this year. So very daunting statistics. And as the chairman noted, you have a resolution before you towards the end of this meeting to approve HRNA, which is a consulting firm that we are seeking to hire to comb through this data and help us understand it better so we can make remedial actions and plans moving forward in conjunction with the Economic Advisory Council. So looking for your support later today. I also direct you to the last file in that drive. It is the NCIDA's social media response during this crisis. I can tell you that the team has done a great job keeping the front page of our website updated with current information as best we can. This is a very fluid, intense situation. Information changes hourly. We're working hard to stay abreast of it. I applaud Catherine for the work that she's done to comb through it, organize it, and get it placed up there. But also you'll see we've been very active on social media, communicating whatever information we have once it's verified and getting it out there. And again, I thank the team for staying on top of this. It's been a difficult task, but they are coming through strongly. And lastly, Kevin, if you can move me to the next slide. This is really the stories that we want to see during these types of crises. A number of our clients have come together. They reached out to us. They said, what can we do? This is one example. Steel Equities, with their logistics and their funding, worked with Nestle Water with contributions of water bottles, and Bagels by Bell, another one of our client companies. Bagels by Bell donated 4,000 bagels to hospitals and Nassau County PD, and Nestle delivered 20,000 bottles of waters to about a dozen or so hospitals. So really, when you sit here during these critical times and you see the business community and these companies that we work with on a business basis come together in these times of crisis, that's really what it is all about in terms of our business community, and really applaud those and others that have called us to see how they can help create components for ventilators or how they can possibly repair ventilators. We're getting calls, we're fielding them, we're sending them to New York State ESD when appropriate. So I just want to applaud the team for staying focused on traditional business, but also rising to the occasion during these unprecedented times. And I thank them all from the bottom of my heart. Mr. Chairman, I return it back to you.
Thank you, Harry. And before we get into our business here, just again, just a great job by staff. They've just done terrific, every single one of them. And I really appreciate all the great work that they're doing. They're true public servants. Thank you. Now, normally at this time, we would have a public comment period, but obviously we can't do that tonight. So if you have a comment on anything that we are doing tonight, you can submit it to info@NassauCountyIDA.com. That's info@NassauCountyIDA.com. As I indicated, that we intend to do a public hearing in person where people can speak and address us at a later time. So just to make that clear to the public that's watching. And I also know, I hope that my friend Matt Arasich is watching. I did reach out to Matt yesterday. He's head of the building trades. We don't want to forget our union workers out there who do a great job. A number of them are not working right now. And hopefully these projects, when they come to fruition, will provide jobs at a very opportune time. That is very important to us. And we have been in touch with the labor unions, have been the developers, and we appreciate that very much. So now, if there's no other business, I want to turn to our three preliminary inducements. The first one is 1-800-Flowers.
Mr. Chairman, before we open up those channels, I just want to confirm that the email address to submit public comment is info@NassauIDA.org. I believe you may have misstated that, just to correct that. At this point in time, I can see Mr. Tom Stringer has joined. I can see Mr. Brian McGee as well. Gentlemen, just want to confirm that you're with us, please.
Good evening, Harry.
Good evening,
Hello,
Brian McGee here.
Hello, Brian. And Mr. Jerry Gallagher is with us as well.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Tom, I'll turn it over to you and the 1-800 team.
Great. Thank you, Harry. And again, I'd like to echo the comments from earlier this evening as someone who does this work around the country, but is a tried and true Long Islander. I would like to thank the chairman and Harry for all their work on behalf of 1-800-Flowers over the course of the past year as we've gone through our project. But I would especially really like to thank Danielle, Andrew, the staff for just the incredible work that you guys have done in keeping the flows of government and commerce going during what are clearly unusual, difficult, challenging, and almost seemingly impossible times. But it's something that everybody has to work through, and it's phenomenal to see somebody and a team that you guys have pulled together going out there and servicing the business community, frankly, when it needs it most, to make sure that first and foremost people are working. So from the bottom of my heart and our heart at 1-800-Flowers, we want to thank you guys for the effort that you've put forth, just frankly to get this meeting even going is a tribute. So thank you very much. We started off this project several years ago looking for a new corporate headquarters, and we are really proud to have worked with this team, both here in Nassau County as well as with the state, to hopefully be on a path to replanting the flag for a global and iconic Long Island company right here on Long Island. What I'd like to do this evening is tell you just a little bit about the company and the project for the public so that they can certainly be able to contribute at the public hearing portion when and if we can get that going. We certainly look forward to that. I'll tell you a little bit about the company, a little bit about the specifics of the project, and then I'm going to turn it over to Brian McGee, who's the Senior Vice President in charge of this project for 1-800, and he can certainly provide a little more in-depth background on the company and the process that was employed. And then we'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. As you guys probably know, 1-800-Flowers is a global leader in the provision of flowers, floral products, related gifts, gourmet foods, and the company was founded back in 1976. Today, they have approximately $1.3 billion in sales with locations across the country. They have been at Old Country Road, One Old Country Road, the location that the chairman has mentioned that he drives by pretty much regularly since 2005. We're a public company traded on the NASDAQ, so all our financial information is readily available to the public. FLWS is the ticker symbol for anyone at home who can't see it on the screen. Some of the brands, obviously 1-800-Flowers, Harry and David, Cheryl's Cookies, Simply Chocolate, the Popcorn Factory, and many others. So the reach of the company and the reach of the brands, and I think the knowledge and how many Long Islanders actually touch the company on a regular basis and maybe don't even know it is pretty extensive. And I happen to think that given the reach of the company, the beacon that they are and the ambassador that they are, quite frankly, for the Long Island business community is pretty extensive. As I had mentioned earlier, we were looking for a new headquarters facility, and this project really commenced several years ago, and we've been working with this board, this administration for the past year plus, as we've looked at several dozen sites across the country, certainly across the island, across several states. And as we looked at the current facility and we looked at workforce needs and what it took to attract and maintain a world-class workforce, the current facility was clearly failing in many extents. Things like parking, collaborative workspaces, newer technologies, a comfortable environment. The current building just was not at the standards that 1-800 needed to again, not only attract and retain talent, but to potentially grow in the future and really use it as a recruitment tool. So after, again, a multi-year search, we think we have found a spot and good partners at 2 Jericho Plaza. I think it's important to note, especially given the times, that we're currently in about 81,000 square feet of space. While this is a retention project for 377 377 existing positions, we are taking additional space, almost 97,000 square feet, and that represents an increase of almost 20%. So the company has got incredible growth plans. I think given the environment that we're in, a retention of this number of jobs with a payroll that is extensive and well above the county average, I think is exceptional. The spend on the project that we're proposing is anywhere from 9.9 to 10.4 million. Now that's in conjunction with the landlord. A sizable portion of that would be our own direct spend on new FF&E, with the landlord contributing the rest, and we would be paying for that through the lease. We are looking at taking an 11-year lease with occupancy hopefully in May 2021. Given build out and construction timeframes, and we have some renewal options, 2 5-year renewal options on the proposed lease. The request, as we've discussed with staff and with some members of the board, has been for a 10-year pilot freeze with the right for certiorari should some things change in the taxing environment. And then after the freeze period would end, during the initial 5-year renewal, we would look for annual escalations at the 1.81% rate. Given the size of the build out and the construction that we anticipate in the FF&E, we would also be seeking a sales tax exemption for the construction. So I would note that the pilot, we would only be looking for the pilot on our portion of the building at 2 Jericho. It is a multi-tenant building. So I would like to note that for the board. I'd also now at this point in time like to turn it over to Brian McGee to give you a little bit about the history of the company, and then we'd be happy to address any questions that the board may have.
Hello all. Apparently my video is not working, so I'll have to wait to see you all live at the public meeting, but I thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Chairman. You've been tremendously helpful, as has the county executive. We appreciate your time and the boards this evening in what's certainly difficult times for all of us right now. But as was mentioned, business has to keep moving. We are currently still fully operational. We're fortunate that the vast majority of our employees are able to be working from home at this time, and look forward to getting them all back soon. But we will continue to work through these challenging times and get back into our current office as soon as we can, and then our future home as soon as it's ready. The company, as Tom mentioned, has been around since 1976. I've been with the company myself coming up on 25 years now, and have seen us grow tremendously from one small flower company into now a global gift company. The building, as Tom mentioned, that we're in currently, we did try to get a renewal done there, but it just didn't work out for a host of reasons. And we really wanted something that would be attractive to our employees as well as new employees, and help us retain the talent that's so critical today. So with your help and the state's help, we look forward to trying to wrap this up fairly quickly if we can. It seems like a long time off, but to get in there a year from now, there's a tremendous amount has to take place in that period of time. And we hope to get through it smoothly and quickly. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the company or our project, and we'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys. Tom, appreciate working with you and continue to work with you. Just a couple of comments and one question, and then ask if the board has any thoughts on this as well. First of all, I noted, I didn't really realize this, but I noted in your list or the companies that are under you. And so I noted 3 of them that I've used frequently. Sherry's Berries, Cheryl's Cookies. Now you know I am a big guy. And Wolferman's. Now I have to tell you, a lot of people haven't heard of Wolferman's. They make the greatest English muffins I've ever eaten. And they're they tell you when you get them, and I've eaten them for years, that you can't, you're not supposed to cut them with a knife to open them. You're supposed to use your fingers to go around them. Those are excellent. And these products are all great. So I have personal experience, and of course flowers too, and as well. And I, again, want to just repeat that you guys have just done, the growth has been extraordinary. The companies has been a great success. I certainly have followed them for many years. And I'm very happy that you guys have agreed to stay here in Nassau County. I know, as we talked about, you could have gone to other states, but you decided to stay here. And that's very important. And on behalf of the county executive, I know we've spoken to her, you have spoken to her. We want to thank you and really appreciate this. We want 1-800-Flowers to stay, and we're very excited about it. And I have spoken, we had a good call with the 1-800-Flowers late last week. So most of my questions have been answered. I guess the one question is, well, actually 2. One, how are you doing under these circumstances? How's the company faring? And number 2, do you see a possibility, because you're taking more square footage, to have employee growth in the years ahead?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on the first front, the company is doing the best we can, like everybody, through this very difficult time. As I mentioned, we're fortunate that the lion's share of our staff is able to work from home right now, and will continue to do so until we can safely get them back in the office. So business is certainly off, as everybody's is. The consumer is certainly going to watch their pocketbook for the foreseeable future, but we hope they get back into the swing of things as fast as possible, and we can assist them during that time. The rest of the company, scattered throughout the country and are doing relatively well, but we need the economy to come back. We need people to get back to work and move our efforts forward from there. So it's going to be a challenge for some time, as we all know, but we hope it'll be sooner than later. So
That's good. And what about the future of the company? Are you hoping at some point to add more employees?
it's certainly part of our goal. We have averaged, since I've been with the company, we acquire somebody about every 2 years, some bigger, some smaller. As I mentioned, 25 years ago, we didn't have anybody other than 1-800-Flowers, and we had just acquired Conroy's Flowers when I joined. Since then, we have dozens of retail brands and other companies that we own. The list that's on the slide is just some of those. So we have businesses around the world in some parts, but our factories are all in the United States, and they continue to grow. With each new acquisition, there's always staff being added at that time. So we purposely went into this with the idea that if we take extra space, we'll be prepared and able to bring on additional staff as those brands get added and businesses get added, and we simply grow the existing base overall as well. So we did take the chance to get additional square footage while we can, and as the market comes back, hopefully we'll be able to add to that staffing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do any board members have any comments or questions about to 1-800-Flowers?
Chairman Kessel, it's Lewis Warren. I just wanted to commend Tom and Brian for their positive optimism about staying on Long Island. To my mind, I don't have the tenure on Long Island as many of the board members, having only been here about 25 years. But to me, 1-800-Flowers is much like the New York Islanders. It is an iconic brand, employer, and part of the fabric of our community. So I want to commend you. I want to commend County Executive Karen, Chairman Kessel, the state for working hard over the last year for us to reach out and see if we can be helpful. Our board is all about economic development and jobs with a strong focus on Nassau County, obviously, and Long Island. But to me, in the middle of our tough COVID-19 situation or public health crisis, it's good to be here, and I support Chairman Kessel's view of thinking about the future, thinking about growth, thinking about how we can help one of our truly iconic companies on Long Island. So I just commend you for being positive and forward thinking and a strong proponent of Nassau County and Long Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Louis. Any other board members with any questions or comments? Harry?
No further comments in addition to what's already been stated.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion before us, again, for the public's benefit. This is a preliminary resolution. There will be a public hearing on this going forward. Our staff will review the project. We will have negotiations with the 1-800-Flowers team, and this will then come back to the board for a final vote in the future. With that, do I hear a resolution to approve this preliminary inducement for 1-800-Flowers?
Anthony Simon, I'll make the motion.
Do I hear a second?
And I'll second Chairman Kessler, Lewis Warren.
Okay. Richard Kessel, I vote yes.
Amy Flores, I vote yes.
Christopher Fusco, yes.
John Kamadas, yes.
Anthony Simon, yes.
Lewis Warren, yes.
Okay, the inducement passes. We look forward to working with 1-800-Flowers. Thank you very much. Tom and your team did an excellent job. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and board members. We really appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the way. And again, great efforts so far. We really appreciate what the IDA has done. You guys, Harry, you should be very proud of the team.
I am, Tom. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you all greatly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now take a couple of minutes just to get the lines set so we can go to the project Superblock Engel Berman at the beach.
Okay. Did you say to start? Yeah.
So just let us confirm, we have Stephen Krieger's conference room. I believe you have Dan Deegan and Peter Curry with you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Correct. Yes.
And do we also have Jan Berman yet?
Yes. Is he in? He's calling in remotely. Jan, are you in?
We'll just give Jan just another minute. I believe we also have Mr. Kevin Grems with us.
Excellent.
And I see Jan Berman showed up, but he is muted at the moment.
Okay. Jan, you're muted. Okay.
Mr. Krieger, the floor is yours, and you have quite a few slides here. So when you need to advance, just please say next slide.
I will tell you. So this is Dan Deegan with the law firm Porcelli Deegan Tirana. I first just want to do a sound check so you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, good. We're in a conference room. We are socially distanced from each other, but and we wore masks in here and taking all precautions. So I just want to assure everybody of that. I have with me in the room, we have Stephen Krieger, who you mentioned, who's a principal of Engel Berman. And remotely, we have Jan Berman, who is, we can't see him on the screen here, but can you guys see him?
Yeah.
We can, yes.
Okay, good. Just making sure. And also my co-counsel, Peter Curry from Farrell Fritz is here as well. So thank you to the board for taking the time and for obviously, arranging for this technology to be here. It's new for all of us. I'm going to take you through the project, and I will, we're going to leave this first slide on for a while, and I'll tell you when we're going to switch the slide. So I just introduced the team here. Engel Berman has appeared before this IDA on numerous occasions. They're a premier Long Island developer, Long Island-based developer. They have strong community ties. They have an excellent reputation for quality and responsibility. Engel Berman has a proven track record of success. They've developed 5,000 condominiums and rental units, including the Aqua condominiums in Long Beach, which is known for its high-quality construction. They've developed, and currently operate over 20 Bristol assisted living communities, which are well known for high quality of living and high quality of care. Overall, they've developed 10 million square feet plus of diverse properties, including office and retail, in addition to those other projects. Engel Berman is a full service developer. They acquire the land, get the approvals, construct the buildings, and then own and manage their own developments. Engel Berman just finished constructing the Wellbridge campus, a joint venture with Northwell, which is a 95-acre state-of-the-art drug abuse treatment and research center in Riverhead. That facility will focus on the opioid crisis and will open in the next 4 weeks. Engel Berman is in contract to buy the property known as the Long Beach Superblock from iStar, which currently owns the property. That contract to purchase is subject to all zoning approvals and to a determination of financial feasibility. The Superblock is a 6-acre oceanfront lot that has been vacant for decades. The history of this site has been well publicized and is well known. Many failed development attempts over the past several decades. The last failed project was the iStar project, which has resulted in ongoing litigation against the city of Long Beach. There's a legacy of blight for this property. No development, no significant real estate taxes, and no economic benefits for the city. Engel Berman has come up with an innovative plan to try and make this development work for all and to break the past cycles of failure. That plan entails an as-of-right development, which is fully code compliant, requiring no variances. Engel Berman retained the architectural firm of Minnow Wasco, which is an award-winning firm known for quality design, meticulous detailing, superior materials, and energy efficiency. The plan calls for 438 units in 3 aesthetically beautiful buildings. First one you see in front of us is the condominium building. There's 2 condominium buildings. You can see one slightly in the background, but that's the design and look of the condominium building. There's going to be 200, and let me just mention that the design features and style were informed by the community input that was referenced earlier by the chairman, which we'll get to in a moment. The project consists of 200 condominiums in 2 buildings, those 2 buildings there, and 238 units of rental in a 3rd building. 10% of those rentals would be workforce housing, approximately 24 units. In addition, the project would have 6,500 square feet of restaurant and grab and go located on the boardwalk, which is separately parked. There will also be a public plaza on the boardwalk as part of this project. I'll go to slide 2 and you can see the rental building. So, and we'll see a site plan in a moment, but just to get a sense of the architectural feel of the buildings, that's the rental, and then the other 2 are the condos. So now go to the next slide, if you would. Just want to show by comparison in terms of the zoning compliance, which I think makes a big difference to the community. What the zoning permits is 110 feet. That's what we're building. The iStar proposal was 170 feet. The number of units is 438 that I referenced. The iStar proposal was 522 and 16 stories, which required parking, which required variances. Engel Berman is proposing over 2 parking spaces per residential unit. The iStar proposal, which failed last time, required numerous zoning code variances. We're requiring none. We are over parked and fully zoning code compliant. Next chart. Just to give you a sense of proportionality and massing, the Engel Berman project's on the left and the iStar is on the right. You can kind of see how it's been downsized because to be zoning compliant by definition means that it's going to be downsized what prior proposals were. Go to the next slide. So here's the site plan. You can see the ocean is on the bottom of the screen. That's the boardwalk running along and the beach. So on the left side of the screen, which is the western end of the property, this is a 6-acre piece of property. You can see the left half are the 2 condominium structures. And the right, building on the right, all the way to the east end of the property is the rental building. These buildings are situated like this to maximize view corridors for the properties behind them and around them. That's something that's required by the zoning code, and it results in over 60% of open view corridors from behind the buildings. You can see that there's a common driveway that comes up off of Broadway, heading south. You're actually going up 2 stories. There's structured parking underneath this, what you're seeing here, underneath the main level. There's the driveway coming up, and it goes into 2 drop-off areas, one for the condominium on the left and one for the rental on the right. Where boardwalk is written, right, that area in there is a public plaza. You can see that there's 2 swimming pools, one on the left for the condominiums and one on the right for the rental. And there's also green spaces and various amenities. The restaurant and grab and go is on the lower right-hand side, near where just to the right of the word boardwalk and there. As I said, the restaurant will have its own parking so that you can either access it from the boardwalk or you can come in through Long Beach Boulevard and enter into the parking structure that's underneath this whole section and have its own parking. The unit mix for the rental, we're talking about, as I said, 238 units. Approximately 109 of those units would be 2 bedrooms, 99 would be 1 bedrooms, and 30 studios. On the condominium structures, 132 would be 2 bedrooms, and 68 units would be 1 bedrooms. The projected rents for the rental portion range from the mid-2000s to the mid-4000s, depending on the unit size and location. The projected condominium prices, this is all pro-COVID, but this is what we're projecting and hoping for, is between $800,000 to $1.2 million per unit. Now, a big advantage of this innovative plan is to build almost half of the development as condominiums. And by doing so, the condominium units generate full taxes immediately upon construction. The current land-only taxes is about $500,000. Once the 200 condominium units are constructed, that number will jump to $3.5 million, 7 times the current existing taxes. Now, in terms of the community outreach that was mentioned earlier, as part of our effort to contrast our team's approach and this proposal from the prior efforts on this site, Engle-Berman sought to proactively reach out to the community, provide information, and to get feedback about the proposed development. Starting in November and carrying on throughout January and February, Engle-Berman engaged in an extensive series of community meetings with each of the civic groups in the city, the Chamber of Commerce, and other stakeholders and groups in the city to present this plan. In addition, we've reached out to the various elected officials at the local, county, and state levels to brief them. We've met with them and we've kept them apprised of our community outreach efforts. In fact, some of these elected officials actually attended some of these community meetings that were held. At each of these civic meetings, the general feedback was very positive and supportive of this proposed development. It was made very clear in those community meetings that this development will require the assistance of this board and the Nassau County IDA, which leads us to the project costs. The construction costs are very high for this development. The cost for the condominium portion of the development is estimated at $211 million, and the cost for the rental component is about $158 million. While construction costs are high on Long Island generally, this oceanfront site has particular challenges, including FEMA compliance. This project will require over 1,500 piles, will require storm hardening features required for FEMA compliance. The parking podium that was referenced, which is the first 2 floors that go up 17 feet, because of FEMA compliance, you can't build any habitable space on the first 17 feet. So everything has to be lifted up, which provides the opportunity for parking and the parking infrastructure, but that is very expensive to build. And as I indicated, we are actually overbuilding parking compared to what's required by the code. And that's a result of the feedback in the community where people have been very concerned about parking and what this would do to the surrounding areas. So this has been built in a way that has more parking that's required. That's an additional expense. And even just to build any parking there in a structured way on the ocean is very expensive. We're also going to have off-site sewer and water infrastructure that's required, about $5 million worth. There's also an electrical infrastructure project that will involve moving the lines. Right now there's an abandoned road that cuts the property in half that has all the electric in it. That electric has to be moved and put underground onto East Broadway. And that's a very expensive project, plus millions of dollars. The construction is expected to span 48 months, with the planned start of construction hopefully at the end of 2020. We will start construction of the parking structure, followed by the rental building and the middle condo building. And this is because you'd start this way because of the positioning of the crane between those 2 buildings to facilitate and make the construction most efficient. This project will generate hundreds of construction jobs. Engle-Berman has met with and has been in continuous contact with the Nassau Suffolk Building Trades, Matt Arasich, and representatives of several individual unions and union contractors. And we look forward to working with them on this project. The development will generate 20 permanent jobs between the condo and rental buildings, plus an undetermined number of restaurant jobs. However, the real substantial economic impacts of this project will result from the construction jobs, from the tax and pilot revenues to the city, school district, and county, if we can move forward on this project, and the direct and indirect multiplier effect of the new residents spending their money in the city. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Peter Curry, who will take this board through some of the positive economic impacts that this development will generate. Peter.
Good evening, members of the board. We have compiled data with regard to the construction and operation of the project. I'd like to start out, I'd like to separate them into construction impact and then operational impact. And again, these are the direct and indirect and induced spending. That's the data that we've compiled so that every dollar that gets spent being paid to a construction worker, that dollar gets recycled into the economy. And we've determined our estimate for the condominium construction wages is about $93.5 million. The rental building construction wages are about $73 million. And that subtotal is about $166 million for construction wages during the 40 some odd month construction period alone. The materials expenditures for the two buildings would aggregate about $248 million, again, in direct, indirect, and induced amounts of money. If you add the mortgage tax to that, that's the one thing that doesn't have any indirect impact. And this is the mortgage tax that will be obtained for the original financing of the condo, the original financing of the rental building, and the initial condominium sales. That is about $5,800,000. The construction impact alone of this project over the next 40 months will be $421 million and change. As you saw the headlines from Long Beach today, Long Beach, the city is laying off a lot of part-time workers. It's a city that's in extremis to some extent. And we felt that we should also lay out the operational impact of the operation of the project. You know, what is this going to do for the benefit of the county and the city of Long Beach over the term of its IDA transaction? The annual wages, again, direct, indirect, and induced wages for the project are about $3,350,000. And that number over the course of the pilot that we're seeking is almost $71 million without any salary increase over that term. If we were to take the salary with just a 2.5% increase over the life of what we are requesting from the agency, the salaries would be $147 million. In addition to that, the household economic effect of the spending of the residents in the two community or in the community is an annual expenditure of $71 million. In addition, that would result in a labor impact of new employment beyond that spending or out of that spending of residents of Long Beach and the county of $26 million. So you can see that the operational numbers are about $100 million a year in operational spending by the residents of the community. So between that and what we've mentioned to you, the effect of the employee wages, which are $3.5 million a year, you can see that it's a little over $103 million a year going to get spent as a consequence of the operation of the project. Dan, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Can you switch to the next chart, please, Harry? Now, this chart is kind of on our screen anyway. It's blocked off on the right. I don't know if anybody can see the whole chart. Can everybody see the whole chart, even to the right, years to the right?
And we can see up to years 30.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right, yeah, we that's fine, as long as everybody can see it. So as you can see from this chart, the taxes that will be generated, and we've done projections on what these taxes, what the full taxes on the condominium once they're built would be, will exceed $135 million over 30 years. That is only for the condominium units, the 200 condominium units. That doesn't even get us to the rental. Compare this to the land-only taxes, which is the bottom line going across. And you can see it's a drastic difference. And, you know, everyone could say, well, the likelihood of land only, what's the likelihood of that? Well, that's been the last 40 years, what's been happening. So, you know, this is a tremendous boost that can happen. And we want to make sure it's clear. Engelberman is seeking a pilot only on the rental component of this development. And therefore, any pilot revenue generated will be in addition to that line that you see there, which is the Engelberman condos. So anything would be built up on top of that. To be clear, any pilot revenue from the rental building will be on top of the line that's shown there. So this is the condos only. The I-star for illustrative or comparison purposes is shown there as to what they were proposing. And you can see it's a stark difference. The assistance that we're seeking. So we're seeking a 30-year pilot on the rental portion only of the development that would start after construction is complete. The requested pilot would phase in the incremental taxes created by the rental development over years 11 through 30. Given the high cost of construction generally and the particular challenges for this development, this level of pilot is absolutely necessary to make this development financially feasible. The financial challenges for this development result from the high construction costs, including the FEMA compliance, piles, storm hardening, the parking infrastructure I mentioned, but also the zoning compliant lower density results in less revenue being able to get generated out of this project. The off-site sewer and water infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure, and also the workforce housing component also has an impact on the revenue that can be generated from a project like this. This is why the IDA assistance is absolutely necessary. However, it must be emphasized, and you heard Peter allude to it a little bit, and hopefully this will be fleshed out in the reports that the IDA does, that the requested pilot agreement on the rental component, when taken together with the condominium taxes, will generate revenues for the county, city, and school district far in excess of the incremental cost to those municipalities. We are also seeking a sales tax exemption on the construction materials for the overall development, and we're looking for a mortgage recording tax exemption for the construction and permanent financing associated with that. Go to the next slide, please. So without the assistance of this IDA board, this development is not possible. Given the well-known history of this site with the city and with this IDA, we have worked to come up with an innovative plan. A plan that is as of right zoning compliant and one that calls for roughly 45% of the units to be built as fully taxable condo units. A plan that allows us to request the minimum level of assistance required to make this project feasible. As I indicated earlier, Engelberman's contract with iStar, which still owns the property, is contingent on getting permits and achieving financial feasibility. Without this IDA's assistance, that is not possible. Finally, as you know, the IDA's role and mission is to promote jobs and economic development. Given what's happening in the state and the world at this time, there's never been a better time for this IDA board to act and help us make this development a reality. The city needs it, the county needs it, the state needs it. And with that, we take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Dan, Peter, and my friend Steve Krieger over there. A couple of quick comments and one question. First of all, I want to thank you for your efforts here. We have had a series of informal meetings with Steve, Jan, and the legal team about this with our staff, myself, and we appreciate your cooperation. I want to say that you have done a great job in outreach, something that's critically important. I know that you had about 6 community meetings. You reached out to the elected officials and others, and I think that that could certainly positively impact the outcome this time around. I also want to indicate for the record that it's very rare that we will formally reach out to elected officials for preliminary approval. Our policy is usually that we will reach out to elected officials when we're about to schedule a hearing to make sure that they're aware of the hearing and what we're doing. In this particular instance, because of the history involved, I did reach out personally and spoke to most of the elected officials representing the area in Long Beach that this would go to. And I want to thank all of those elected officials for speaking with me. I know a number of them spoke with your team as well. And obviously we want to keep them and the community involved in this process. The super block has been a long time in coming. Certainly a project of this scope will have a major positive financial impact on the city of Long Beach, the surrounding areas, the Barrier Island, and Nassau County itself. So this is a major initiative. As I think I said at the outset, probably the most significant project to date that this new IDA board has taken up. And I do want to indicate that there has been a long history of this project. I know that some of my fellow board members were on the prior board when this received quite a lot of controversy. I'm looking forward to moving forward. Obviously, we want to make sure that the community is supportive of it, that the elected officials that represent the area are supportive of it. And I think the outreach that's been done so far is excellent. I want it to continue. As you indicated, Dan, I think it's very important that the building trades and the other unions be directly involved in working on this project. I did speak, directly to Matt Arasich and to John Durso, and in fact, sat in on a meeting with yourselves and Matt of the building trades. We've had some productive meetings. I don't want to speak for Matt. He certainly can speak for himself, but I understand that there's a lot of progress that's being made, and it's going to be important as we move forward that those that dialogue continues and that we receive regular updates on your progress in the discussions with the building trades and the other unions that are involved. That is very important. Again, I want to thank you for your hard work on this project, and just want to remind the public that this is a first presentation. You have made a proposal in terms of IDA benefits. In the end, the package that we ultimately come up with will be a combination of negotiations between our staff and the Superblock team. We will also take into account public comments and input from the public and elected officials. We will have a hearing at the right time to hear from the public, and that the board will not vote on it until that process has been completed. And I do want to say one other thing, and that is that I'm very pleased from what I'm hearing in terms of the public support, but certainly the pilot issue is one that we want to pay very close attention to. I think we recognize the fact that under current circumstances and probably prior to that, that the IDA assistance is needed for this project to go forward. I truly believe that. Having said that, I want to assure the public that we're going to take a hard look at the project and the pilot. I know that Kevin Grims I see him, so he is in this meeting. I'm not sure he's ready to make a presentation, but we've hired Kevin Grims to help review all of the housing projects that we're taking up. And he will obviously be looking at this and making a report that will be public to the board. With that, I thank you for your presentation, and I want to ask our board members if they have any questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to offer just 2 points of information for the benefit of the board discussion. During this meeting, we received a letter from Matthew Arasich, President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of the Nassau and Suffolk counties. It is a 1-page letter. I will put it into the public record, but in short, and I'm paraphrasing, Mr. Arasich states that the construction team of Engel Berman has involved the Trades Council from the start, and they await further details of the plan and look forward to continued discussions, which supports Mr. Deegan's earlier comments about Engel Berman working with the Trades Council. Second, in terms of the pilot discussion, we have invited Kevin Grims here with us today just to discuss the process that NDC employs to confirm that the pilot is appropriate under these circumstances. And he's happy to offer his input onto that process should the board wish to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Maybe what we should do is before the board questions or comments if they have any. Kevin, you want to make a brief presentation about the process that you go forward in analyzing this? We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, let me first say that I've been to many public meetings, and this is the first one that I'm attending electronically through Zoom. Let me commend the staff and everyone at the IDA for a very smooth meeting that you've coordinated here through Zoom. The IDA assignment for us to review this application and the request from the developer. It includes the review of the IDA application, development program, which has just been reviewed by Mr. Dugan and Mr. Curry, and then also the developer financial model. I have not yet reviewed all the details of the financial model, but we looked at all of the details of the financial model, and some of the few items that we've heard tonight is that there are some extraordinary costs associated with the development of this, given the FEMA standards and subterranean parking, which creates a financial challenge to development. So we look at the whole development, the capital budget, the operating budget, and based upon that, determine the need for the payment in lieu of taxes and the other associated financial benefits, the mortgage record and tax exemption, as well as the sales tax exemption. And based upon the extraordinary costs and based upon where the estimated taxes are on an as-complete basis, I think it's safe to assume that there is a need for a pilot. But we look a little bit further in terms of not only determining the need for the pilot, but also commenting on the appropriateness of the schedule and the phase-in of the taxes. So our objective is to review this for purposes of establishing financial feasibility. I think the pilot is necessary to establish financial feasibility. We look to establish financial feasibility without providing undue level of public incentive in terms of the overall package. And that's the overall objective, is to make sure that the pilot and the financial package has been sized appropriately for establishing financial feasibility. Short of it is that we're looking to provide justification of the but-for test. But for the availability of these financial incentives provided through the IDA, development is not financially feasible. And then also demonstrating that the public benefit exceeds that benefit provided to the project itself. So that's a snapshot summary about our assignment, and that I think helps for providing justification for the need of the pilot and to demonstrate the decision or help provide that decision making for the IDA staff and board based upon that thorough financial analysis conducted on this development.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate that. We look forward to your analysis and report. I don't remember if it was mentioned, Dan, but as I understand it, there will be, in the rental part, 24 units that will be affordable units as well. Is that correct?
Yes, there'll be workforce units, 24, which represents 10% of the rental component.
Thank you. Board members, does anyone have any comments or questions at this time?
Richie, Anthony Simon, let me just say, I have been in communication as well with Maddie Arasich from the building trades. I was at that first meeting, and there is constant communication, which is very positive. Maddie is positive that they're working through the issues, and he did, as Harry say, commend the construction team. So I'm pretty optimistic, and I look forward to this project moving along, as well as I look forward to them working with the building trades, as per Maddie has stated.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Any other board members, questions or comments?
I have. Go ahead.
John.
John Kamatis. I have a couple questions. Is there age restrictions or on these units being built first?
No.
Okay. Number two is, listen, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. It's an asset to the community. Union workers will have jobs. It's great. I'm sure you guys hopefully will make a couple dollars, but my issue with it is because you're bringing so many more people into the community, have you reached out to the volunteer fire departments? And what is your, because right now the enrollment's down in every town, which makes it tough for them to respond to any kind of calls. In which during the daytime, what they're doing is they're reaching out to other towns or hitting 911 to get people to come in and respond. Now, do you guys go out and get a private ambulance service, or are you dealing with the volunteer fire department, or have you reached out to them at all?
Well, some of the meetings have been attended by volunteer firemen. We actually, because this is an as-of-right project within the zoning code, we've had to deal with the city hall and the ultimate issuance of a building permit. That analysis is done in terms of capacity. But, we feel pretty confident that, the city, the revenue that's produced by this for the city will more than compensate for additional costs that might be put onto the city, and that the city would have the capacity to handle this if they have this additional revenue.
Okay.
Dan, it's Richie again. Be helpful if you really reached out though to the fire department. It is a barrier island.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
Go ahead.
yeah, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, Stephen Krieger, Engel Berman. Just want to thank everybody for putting this together. Unbelievable job, and the way you put this together, you should really be commended. Appreciate that. Scott Kemmons, actually, from the superintendent of buildings and the head of the building department in the city of Long Beach, is actually an active member of the fire department. And we've had extensive conversations with him regarding the design of the building and making sure that the fire apparatus can get around the building and so on and so forth. So we have reached out and we'll continue to reach out to them. And it's a good question and a good point, and we'll continue that dialogue.
Thank you.
Any other board members have any questions or comments?
Chairman Kessel, it's Louis Warren. I want to say I appreciate the very thorough and detailed analysis and presentation today. I happen to agree with John. I think it's a win-win. I'm just curious, how long has this land been vacant? I mean, is this I know there's been the iStar project, but how long has this been vacant?
40 years. Over 40 years. Yeah.
40 years. Well, I commend Engel Berman. It's clear there's, because it's on a barrier island, the FEMA requirements, it's clear that this is just by definition a much more expensive project than would normally be in literally 95% of Nassau County. So it sounds to me like a very thoughtful, solutions-oriented, fully engaged local community and the elected approach. So I agree with John's comment that it strikes me as a win-win. I'm very supportive of us trying to get the trades and our union citizens involved, and I appreciate the positive partnership today. But that's something that I think would be a huge win for Nassau County to have our trade unions fully involved in the project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Louis. Anyone else from the board? All right, two final things before we vote. I do want to give a special thanks to Anthony Simon and Chris Fusco. They have been working with the unions. I've been talking with them regularly. And I just, Anthony and Chris, want to thank you for your help and input on this. It's very important to the success of the project. So I thank you for that. I appreciate that. And again, what we will be voting on here is a preliminary inducement to the project. And I want to take a privilege of moving the resolution to approve the preliminary inducement for the Superblock Engel Berman project in Long Beach.
Anthony Simon, I'll make that motion.
Chris
Okay.
Fusco, I'll second it.